And welcome everybody to Frank Analysis. I am your host, Franco. I am pleased to be joined by a fantastic panel here. I am joined by Ali Alexandra of the Chicago Corner and also works closely with Heartlands Media. How are you doing, Ali? You want to give everybody a formal introduction about what the work you do and where the people can find you?
Sure. Thank you for having me on. It's good to be here. So I'm Ali Alexandra. Like Franco said, you can find me contributing sometimes to HLM and on the Chicago Corner. I just took over that channel, so kind of restructuring it, but we'll be back up soon. And then you can also find me on Twitter. I will post my name in the chat because it's annoying to say out loud. And you can find me on Substack. That's where I do most of my writing. I'm a freelance writer, so a lot of the things I cover are pretty relevant to this channel. My Substack is Ali Alexandra at substack.com. Thank you for having me on. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. And we are also joined by Joe Nice, who I had the pleasure of meeting in real life when I was down there in DC when we were doing the Force to Vote protest. Yep. So how are you doing, Joe Nice? You want to give an introduction, let people know like what kind of work you do?
Yeah. First of all, good to be with everybody here. Out to all the viewers on Rockfin and everywhere else right now. Make sure you smash the like button because that's important because the algorithms are crazy. But semi-retired DJ, record label owner, activist. I've been doing a bunch of activism work ever since the pandemic began, which is about March of last year. Been doing live and direct chats with a good friend of mine, Kat. We have a couple of different outlets on Joe and Kat Chats on Instagram and on Facebook. Joe Nice DJ on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, Mixcloud. It's all the same. And I just want to make sure that the content that I'm putting out is a positive contribution to society and stands up for what people should be standing up for and what people should be believing in.
And then joining me for I don't know how many times already you've been on this show, Pierce, but you've been here a lot of times. So for the new people, since I did pick up some new audience members, why don't you give an introduction about the work that you do?
Yeah, and a few audience members, man, your channel has blown up. I'm freaking happy for your success, my dude. I am D. Pierce SSC. I am the odd person in the military that kind of looks at politics from like a leftist, anti-imperialist, democracy skeptic kind of lens. These days, I am looking into like politics, philosophy, society, culture. I might even look into some gaming in the future. I just, kind of read. I try to throw my thoughts out there on my channel. I wouldn't say that I'm doing anything big, but if you guys want to check me out, my channel is D Pierce SSC. I'm sure Franco will have that below, and a pleasure to be with everyone here today.
Oh, bro, don't say that you don't do anything big, man. The work that you do is big. You have a diary of like a video diary of the things that you do. And I think you're also planning on having a big future, right?
I was musing on running for president in 2028, just kind of as a joke. But I think I'm moving away from that because I'm just seeing how like hopeless the situation seems to be in the U.S. But those are different discussions for, a different day, right? Oh, and I want to say I do not speak for the military. I definitely want to say that.
Yeah, I was feeling, I get little bits of feelings of hopelessness when things like what happened to me this week happen. I was demonetized, and initially it started out with a warning. Like for people who don't know, I got a warning from YouTube for a video that I tried to stream, and then because of connection issues, it didn't stream successfully, and then they reported it as spam because they said that I was directing people to other websites, and I appealed that because it was because of internet connection, and I deleted that video myself. Why would I leave a blank video up? And then they get back to me 2 days later telling me that they reviewed my channel further and they demonetized me. And then the first thing I do, I let my Discord know because people there are my fam. And then I let a group chat that I'm in with other content creators know. And one of the people there sent me that they also got demonetized. And then I go on Twitter and other people got demonetized too. And then we're all looking at like the screenshot of our emails, and then we notice that we received the same email at the same time at 2:18 p.m. Eastern time.
That's crazy.
This was a purge. And they see us as a threat, but I want to get your opinions. Like what are your thoughts on us getting demonetized? What do you think is the next step after this? 'Cause we know that the shenanigans that YouTube does with suppressing people and taking videos down for illegitimate reasons. Like they don't explain to you why a certain videos are harmful. They didn't explain it to me. They didn't explain it to anybody else why our channels got demonetized. They just said you have a lot of content that goes against our terms and services. So they want us to review it. They want us to look over the hours and hours of content that we have that would take, for some of us, it would take like probably a year to look at every single video again. But what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Can I jump in first? And I just want to say that I'll offer a devil's advocate position of how upset or outraged we should be at this at the end, just to provoke the audience. But yeah, I yield the rest of my time.
Oh, that's it? Okay, I can go then. I thought that you were going. So I mean, we all kind of saw this coming, but honestly, yesterday, Frank's seeing you, it was like, I could tell you were visibly like really frustrated. So it's, I mean, who wouldn't be? But it was just sad because I've seen other people get demonetized, but that one hurt. I was like, oof. You know, we've seen this coming for a while. They definitely did this like about a year ago on the right, and they've been doing it to some left channels. But I remember, I remember that happening and not a lot of people caring, because when it doesn't happen to you sometimes and it's not an issue to you, I guess people aren't going to care. But I see going forward, just other platforms starting to grow. It's going to be hard to initially get people over, but even now, just from everything that happened yesterday, I can tell there's already tons more people that have moved to Rockfin. But I mean, yeah, it's bogus. And the thing is, I was reading through a lot of the terms and conditions because it is hours and hours to just look through it. And the terms on there, they're basically going through the advertisers. So it's not really YouTube, it's their advertisers, and that's the whole corporate like perspective of how things should be run. So they're acting like it's a private company, but they're, it's working hand in hand with the government. So the more that we see the merger of corporations and government, the more of this we will see, because you have to fall in line or you're not going to be approved. That's kind of my perspective on it. I mean, another thing that kind of scares me is just the vagueness of the terms that they use. Like who defines what, something that's offensive might be, or what like quote a terrorist might be. And like if your videos are tagged for that, you're done. So it's just I don't think it's a good business model in the long run. It might be fine now. It works for now, but I think this will be good, and it's a unifying thing because it means that it's, we really are starting to kind of like the working class all wake up on a broader level. And so anytime they see that unity, they want to shut it down.
Yeah, and I was bringing a lot of voices in, but I want to give a shout out to Dirtbag Left for being in the chat. He said, I'm sure they all watch your those videos very carefully. It wouldn't surprise me if there's people in Google that are designated certain channels, and then they just sit there and watch the whole thing, and then they report to their higher ups, or maybe people in the intelligence community who do that. But then again, there's the close ties, big tech and intelligence. There would be no Silicon Valley if there was no CIA. And what's up, Propaganda? So Propaganda's in the chat right now. He's Peterson. He said, yo, this is great. Yeah, bro, this is amazing, man. So, Joe, what are your thoughts, man?
The second that Alex Jones got deplatformed, that was the beginning of the end for I guess, this freedom of independent media, because Alex Jones and other people like David Icke were completely deplatformed from YouTube and, quite honestly, the social media space. And their opinions and their content was not status quo. It was against the norm. It was outside of the bounds of what people would deem to be acceptable. So naturally, if they can deplatform somebody as far right as Alex Jones and then deplatform a current sitting president of the United States, it was only a matter of time before left-leaning independent media was going to be completely demonetized from YouTube. The biggest travesty of all of this is all of the money that content creators have earned from YouTube. YouTube just snatched that money and took it for themselves. YouTube didn't do anything to earn any of that money, and they took it. So that's the biggest, it won't say it's a bigger problem than actually being demonetized, but having your money taken from you simply for expressing your political ideologies, and then being punished and not being told what you're being punished for, that's a huge problem. But this sort of censorship we're seeing this on an international basis. Take a look at what's happening in Myanmar, where with Myanmar, the government cut Facebook. They completely cut it off when Aung San Suu Kyi was being arrested. Take a look at the situation in Uganda with the elections between Bobi Wine and Yoweri Museveni. They cut the phone and the internet in that country for the better part of about 10 days, simply because the Uganda didn't want the rest of the world to know what was happening. And these are in countries that are not nearly as big as the United States and don't have the resources that the United States has. So if countries that have a smaller profile and can try to cover up their elections and some of the nefarious business that's taking place in their nations, certainly a country like the United States can do the same, especially on both sides of the Overton window, the far left independent media and the far right independent media.
So Pierce, you were giving us an interesting devil's advocate before we came on, or before we started streaming live. So you want to let us know what that was?
Yeah, I feel bad. It's not completely organic because I already said it like a few minutes ago offline before the stream. But my devil's advocate position, and I'm glad that Joe Knight, I can use him as a segue, or rather use his point as a segue. He makes a distinction between deplatforming and demonetization. My devil's advocate position would just be related to how, you're doing what you're doing in the independent space and the lefty kind of media space. I would assume demonetization. And I think that Ali did a good job talking about how there are terms and conditions in YouTube where it's like YouTube doesn't control that part as much as like the advertisers. Like the advertisers control the monetization of your product, which isn't the same thing as its value. I mean, one of the things that I think is completely destructive with modern technological societies, the way that Franco, we were talking about this like 2 days ago or something like that. We kind of rank order ideas and how good they are based on followers, likes, how much monetization you're getting. And I think that that's a completely unnatural and shitty way and unfortunate way of viewing things because we see ourselves and our own ideas as commodities, and it's just really, really fucking sick and disgusting. Now, Joe Knight also mentions the censorship, which is deplatforming of a degree. I think that stuff is important to focus on, more important to focus on than demonetization, because you should already assume that these capitalist forces that you call your enemy are going to demonetize you. They're just getting to it very, very slowly. I mean, one of these days, Jimmy Dore is going to be demonetized. One of these days, that's just going to happen. Look at the push that's being made right now with the current administration. All right, Orange Man Bad is gone. Well, what is the U.S. doing right now? We're ramping up the security state, the surveillance state, the fucking censorship state, the state that's going to be telling you what is the right and wrong way to act, not only online, but also offline. So that is the direction that America is moving in. And just the last point, maybe a segue for a topic that we'll be talking about later, but this is related to how you're always playing by the rules of rich elites and capitalists. Like whether it's like this YouTube demonetization thing that you're dealing with, that many other channels are dealing with. But, I think the GameStop, Wall Street, that like kind of, interesting stock news story that happened recently in America, it kind of shows how you're playing by other people's rules. And like the point that Joe Knight brought up with governments, like when entities get too powerful, you have a capacity for abuse, and they will certainly use it if it's to their benefit.
Okay. So Dirtbag Leftist in the chat brings up an interesting point. What about super chats, Pierce? Like if you're an independent journalist, you rely on crowdfunding, right? So YouTube has this feature where you can receive donations from the audience, but now I can't receive that. So what do you say to that?
That's shitty. I haven't thought about that enough, so my ideas aren't fully formed on it. But it sucks that they take an avenue away from somebody that wants to give you money on YouTube's platform. It's like, well, you already let me put up videos, so if not the advertisers, then at least let my fans give me money if they so wish to. I haven't thought about that enough, but my first reaction, my first instinct is to think that sucks. That's unfortunate. That's really shitty. But I mean, if they are, I wouldn't say loyal viewers, but if they really want to donate to you in the moment, hopefully they don't lose that impetus and indeed check out your Patreon and like and subscribe and hit the bell. Like, please do so, folks. Like support the media that you that you constantly consume, and not to use that word in a funny way, but Ali was mentioning that she's on Substack. If you read lots of Ali's stuff like you should, then contribute, like support the people that are doing the things that you like. Like I myself, I subscribed on Substack to Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald, and I don't shoot them tons of cash, but I mean, I do throw my $1 or $2 in there every once in a while. So, I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate because in times of economic precarity, which is inherent to late stage capitalism, it's like, we're kind of caught having to, do the things that we love for money, right? Like you make your channel, but you don't want to do it 100% for free. And I don't think that anyone should want to. But yeah, it's kind of sad that we all have to play by capitalist rules, and yeah, we all have rent to pay. I'm in a fortunate position being in the military myself, but I know that other people that are trying to write good things and make good videos and produce good content, they're not in the same place that I'm at.
So Ali and Joe, you guys have a response to any of the things that Pierce just raised?
I mean, for the most part, he brings up a lot of good points. I don't disagree. I think that, and I'm sure after you think more about the super chats, you'll probably have more to say, because I think that's kind of that's kind of crossing the line, because now you're preventing other users that, by their own terms and conditions, how are they necessarily promoting anything that you're, accusing the person, the creator of, like on a different video? They're not. So it's really controlling like what they're doing with their money. And I'm sure that's somewhere in the terms and conditions. That's why I do like to read them, because it's always in the fine print. But I mean, as there are tons of great supportive people out there, but at the same time, humans are going to be humans, and YouTube super chats are so easy. They're so easy. A lot of the other things, you've got to sign up, you got to make an account, you got to sign up. And it's just like, people will, as the more that this keeps happening. But I mean, I'm going to be cynical, and I don't think YouTube's going to be sending that money back to anybody anytime soon, but they should. And I've been really curious to see how other lawsuits have gone as far as things like this happening, because that sets a precedent. And YouTube really knows, and their advertisers do too, that most smaller creators don't have that legal team. So they don't think anyone's going to fight back. But those terms are really vague. I feel like a lot of them could be argued in court. It's just the matter of paying for that. So that's how I feel. But yeah, I mean, this isn't a good situation, and it's just going to get worse. So I think the more we talk about it, the more that message is out there, the more attention people are going to pay, I hope.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, my issue with YouTube is they say that they're a publisher. Yet they go ahead and censor people because of the content that is presented on the channel. These tech oligarchs can't have it both ways. They can't say that they're a publisher and then prevent themselves from being sued, but then censor content that is put on their platforms. It's called YouTube for a reason. And the reason why it's called YouTube is because you get an opportunity to express your opinions and thoughts and ideas on that platform. So YouTube and Facebook, Twitter, whatever type of social media, you either are publishers or you're not. And if you are a publisher, then by default, you should have the right to censor material, because at that point, if you're a publisher, you have the right to edit content that is published on your platform. But if you say you're not a publisher, then you shouldn't have the right to censor content that is presented on your platform.
Right. And their loop with that is, I mean, they're basically beholden to their advertisers, because it's like, Correct. You've got to agree to the community guidelines for YouTube and the ad program, the partner program. So it's like, when you actually step back and think about it, you're like, wait a second. So who's really calling the shots here? And I was listening to a video on just their creator guidelines about how they make policies. And one of their main points was that they consult with outside experts like NGOs. And I was just like, okay, I mean, oh yeah, like they're beholden to the same people, that all the corporations are. It's just like the World Economic Forum type of group that's really setting the stage for how things are going to go in corporate America, and that's going to trickle down. And if you don't fall in line, there will be problems.
Yeah. More people need to be talking about that and the Great Reset, but we don't have enough.
I'll just get can I get a last? Can I get a last thing on this? I mean, like Ali points up, oh, you find out all of a sudden that they're beholden to their advertisers. I mean, yes, that's how capitalism works. Like, you are going to be, I mean, it reminds me of the movie Network that came out in like 1976 or 74. It's one of my favorite movies, but it's like I hope I'm not spoiling this awesome movie for anyone, but you end up at that like end scene where you're talking to this representation of the large corporation, and it's like, we're meddling with forces that are more powerful than us. Like, these people are your enemy. Like, I mean, Joe, I thought you made a funny argument saying what the U in YouTube stands for. I would say the U in YouTube could easily just stand for you play by their rules. Like, these are large corporations. These are powerful governments.
You must
don't
obey.
give a fuck about you. Like, like, you must obey. Like, you play by our rules. I mean, these people, they can change the rules when when it's not convenient for them. And I'm not saying that to have a sense of hopelessness. I'm just saying, like, you need to always keep in mind that these people are your enemy. And like, when your enemy's giving you money, I don't know, like, I'm just like, as long as you're not deplatformed and they don't take you off their well, I mean, the precedent was already set with Alex Jones, like Joe mentioned. But I mean, yeah, like, I wouldn't expect too much from these forces. Like, these people are your enemy. If you want a better world, these are eventually the people that you're going to have to displace from power using violent or nonviolent methods. That's pretty much it. So, like, while we're in this interregnum period where they're still in power, if they are not going to be so for the rest of eternity, I wouldn't expect charity from your enemy. So that's the side that I'm taking. I'm not trying to take a neoliberalist stance of like, oh, these are corporations, they do what they want. I don't agree with that line of logic. I just think, like, these people are your enemy. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah, you're just being real about it. That's really all you can do. Like, just that's the fact of the matter. We're not friends. Whenever the corporation types try to be your friend, something's wrong. So at least that's how I feel.
Right, especially when you have it from both sides of the political aisle, Democrat and Republican.
Oh yeah, then it's
partisan, and it's like, okay, wait.
If the platform is free, you're being sold.
That's
Well said.
Yeah, that's the truth.
A warm shout out to everybody who's tuning in right now. I see Groundswell just tuned in. Mona just tuned in. What's
Mona.
up, Mona?
Yay.
Colin is here. What's up, Colin? He just donated a super squad up. I was about to say super chat. I was about to cry. But he donated a tip. What's up, Colin? He said, let me scroll up real quick. You see what he said? He said, love all you guys. Franco, keep punching up. I will. Solidarity. Let me turn off this auto scroll because I can't, because it keeps scrolling down every time someone sends a new message. He said, keep punching up. Solidarity with you, brother. Hey, man, thank you so much for the support, man. Israel from Big Talk, Little Talk.
Sad.
He said, capitalism rules. No, it doesn't. This is what happens.
Well, he's
capitalism,
right.
Israel,
it does.
and you're next.
They're coming after you next. Capitalism does rule. Like, that is an objectively true statement.
Well, it does rule, yeah. But hey, Israel, if they come after you, I'm gonna stand in solidarity with you, brother. He said, government is the problem. Free market helps minorities and raises people from poverty. We can debate that.
I mean, GameStop shows that there is no free market. It's socialism for the rich. I mean, I wouldn't even call it socialism or communism for the rich. It's just like oligarchy. It's a contained power source that extracts. It extracts from nature. It kills animals. It lets humans die by not giving them shit. And they don't care about the long term. They care about the short term. And I don't know what they want. Like, I don't know. They want to kill Chinese people or kill Russian people. Like, the systems that we have of global Western capitalism, it's like the goals are so fucking goofy and bad. And, you know, like, that's the fight, man. Goofy. Like that. Yeah. Keep punching up, Franco.
We're in the dark ages. So if you're still to read a little bit more of what Israel said, he said, Texas cattle ranchers put beef on New York tables. Ask yourself how much meat and potatoes they'd have if it all depended on human love and kindness. Well, the problem with capitalism right now is that we have too much. We have too many products now.
I wouldn't even focus on answering that narrow example. I wouldn't even focus on like answering that narrow example. Like, I might as well ask the hypothetical: humans are destroying their planet. Like, what profit motive is going to get us to save the planet? Like, it's like the same game. Like, there's no point in answering narrow questions. We have to think bigger.
For sure.
Israel.
Yeah.
Mona just donated. She just sent a tip. She said, Franco, love you and Ali. Just wanted to drop by and show you and the folks some love. But I'm busy at the moment. Great work, though, Franco, and good luck with everything. We got your back. whatever you need, brother. Yeah, that like the thing that really kept my head up during these times is seeing the support from the fans, seeing the support from the viewers who are part of this family. Like, you guys watch us, you guys share this information. We wouldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for you guys. And it made me feel more united, not with the audience members, as well as with my colleagues who are also content creators, the ones that stand in solidarity with us, and the ones that were also demonetized. I want to give a shout out to Combo Couch, to Nico House, Jamal Thomas, even who else was demonetized? There's a whole bunch of us.
Graham Elwood.
Graham Elwood was demonetized before us this week.
Else?
They're gonna come after more. Like, they just gave Sheraton of Status Quo problems. Regardless of whatever disagreements I may have with the guy, I don't think he should be deplatformed like that.
No. They went after HLM months ago. So they're good for now. Jackson's like the lone. He's fine for now. Jackson Hinkle.
Yeah. And I think it's only a matter of time before they get Kim. I think it's only a matter of time before they get Kim Iverson and they get Jim.
Oh yeah, Kim Iverson, I would say for sure. I think she's like almost done with YouTube now. Like, she just streams only, I think, on Rockfin for now because of what happened.
Yes.
Don't be surprised if it moves from YouTube too. Like, I think that they want to turn the internet, like, they want to turn it into cable news. I mean, that's where they were making their money before, and now everyone's leaving that platform. Like, no one's fucking watching cable news or TV in general. So you're going to see Netflix and Hulu and YouTube and like basically where people are congregating, where the eyeballs are, those places are going to get more and more corporate.
I think they want to siphon people off too. I like to read the New York Times because I want to know what they're talking about. I don't like read it for my own consumption. And there was an article about Telegram, and this came out I think 2 days ago. It was saying, are these the next for as far as like censorship? And the author was actually arguing that it's better to siphon people off because then you can control them and wipe them out easier. So I kind of foresee that happening as well. Like, if you know, a lot of people now have moved to Rockfin, just like what happened with Parler. You had a ton of conservatives that moved to Parler. What happened with that? So it's easier to silence people when they're split off into smaller and smaller groups as well.
It's divide and conquer.
Yep.
It's divide and conquer over again.
That's such a good strategy too, like making sure that you're always paying attention to at least like one or two kind of neoliberal news sources so that you can kind of see what the trajectory is, like where those people are thinking of going. And there's so much disturbing about like the, Parler, what would you call it? Like the hosting services from them being taken away. That's the direction we're going in, folks. Fucking security state, surveillance, censorship. That's where we're going. Yep.
Yeah. Shout out to Beezy, who just tuned into the chat. He said Kim is only streaming on Rockfin and having clips on YouTube. Yeah. Kim is going to be on Monday. I'm going to stream with her on
nice.
Rockfin. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be
right on.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, I do got to thank Big Talk, Little Talk for that, because he works closely with Kim and he was able to help me network that way.
Awesome.
So we're going to talk about censorship, and we're going to talk about Joe Biden's administration and the ties to intelligence and big tech and what that has to do with censorship. So it'll be a great discussion and very educational.
Tune in. For sure. I like him.
I want to share with you guys this article that was on Fox News. All right. So
how we looking, Frank?
It's good. It's looking good. So there is an article on Fox News that's called "YouTube's Dangerous Crackdown on Independent Journalists. It defies all logic and reason." This is written by Joseph A. Wolfson, and he actually reached out to me, wanted to get more answers to his questions for his story, but I saw it later on. But I think he's developing a part 2 to this with more detail. But he pretty much talked about everybody who got the platform. Like, he mentioned Graham, he mentioned Jamal, he mentioned Combo Couch. He did not mention Nico because Nico hadn't announced yet. He mentioned Ford Fisher. I put out a tweet talking about how I never received a single cent from people's super chats. And people were retweeting that, and I guess he found that, and then he discussed it in his article. And I said, YouTube, refund my audience. Like, they were donating to me. They weren't donating to you. Another thing that's
Right.
unfair about this is that we are content creators. We put our labor into creating content so that people can come to YouTube's platform and watch the videos that they release to the public. Like, we are doing a favor for them. And then we get treated like slaves. And then when people are trying to work outside of the system so that they can give money to us, they can't even do that. YouTube wants to act like a middleman, and then they keep the money. So I want to get your thoughts on that. What do you think about YouTube doing that to us? And not even, still, I have not received money from donations that people gave me through Super.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I agree. I said it before earlier on. I think it's wrong. I mean, your supporters didn't pay YouTube; they paid you, and YouTube stole money that was intended for you. And if I were you, sir, I would go ahead and sue them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, what can we do? Because that's bogus. And like you
said, a
class
action lawsuit.
Yeah, that's what I think it should be. Honestly, I almost went to law school, so my mind always is like going to the legal way. Honestly, like that's kind of going to be your best bet, and just to get them like more attention on it. I mean, it's going to be a little expensive to start, but I'm also confident that a lot of supporters would donate to that. And I really, really do, like I keep referring to, I want to know what happened with Steven Crowder's issue, because that was kind of the same. It was just because it was demonetization. Now he was, whether you like him or hate him, he makes fun of a lot of people because he's a comedian. But yeah, it was like with Carlos Maza. But I want to know I know he won, so I want to see how that played out. But that's a good point that you bring up, Franco, about how like all the independent creators are doing YouTube a favor. I mean, when you think about it, because otherwise, if it were up to YouTube, they'd just be playing clips of MSNBC and CNN. Like, people can already turn their TV on for that. So I think it's bogus. My thoughts on it.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to jump in here with is the class action lawsuit that I think needs to happen. It just can't be with only left-leaning content creators.
Right.
This has to be in solidarity with the right also. Mm-hmm. It's that similar situation that we're seeing right now in politics, where you're having poor left-leaning people, poor Democrats that have a whole lot in common with poor Republicans, but because of political ideology, it's like, well, I don't want to work with you because you're a Republican or you're a Trump supporter, or I don't want to work with you because you're a Democrat. But when you look at their material conditions on a day-to-day basis, there is a whole lot of similarities than differences. So I think that sort of unity that you talked about, Franco, in the beginning of this live stream, it's the same sort of unity that needs to happen among the Convo Couch and Jamal Thomas and everybody else on the left, with members of the YouTube community that have a right-leaning ideology.
I want to jump in on that. I think that's an incredibly important point. I was talking with Franco about that a few days ago, and eventually, if you're going to overthrow forces like YouTube that are kind of instigating circumstances where all that we are doing is kind of talking about a better world as opposed to actualizing a better world. And while we're talking about it, we're trying to get our stuff monetized. But, again, we're depending on those same evil forces that need to be overthrown to give us money. Like, what's going to actually lead to a better world is a class consciousness that, it transcends what is left and what is right. And, as long as we're not doing that, we're kind of just talking. Like, you're trapped in what Matt Christman of Chapo Trap House calls the discursive bubble, where we're musing about what a better world looks like, but we're not ever actually actualizing it. We're just stuck in front of our screens. We're talking to people who are already amenable to the ideas that we are espousing. And meanwhile, it's like you're not bringing in the Gab people, the Parler people, and the Parler and Gab people. They're not bringing in the leftist Twitter people. And all of you guys have more in common with each other than you do with rich oligarchs.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
I saw that.
Exactly.
He said he was going to contact his lawyers about this.
Not lawyer, but lawyers.
Huh?
Not lawyer, but lawyers. Plural.
Lawyers. Okay.
Plural.
I mean, one of the things that the only thing that I would say about suing a large major corporation is remember where you are. You're in America. Like, this is like the church of fucking capitalism. Sure. You can go ahead and sue a major corporation if you want to. I mean, I wouldn't mind saying jump in on a lawsuit that, for example, like the GameStop thing, the GameStop Wall Street thing. There are already like apps with like that lawsuit already on file, and you can just join in on that. But you personally starting a lawsuit against a major corporation, that could end up biting you in the ass. Like you might just be losing out in court fees. What you're donated. I would just advocate for the people that are tuning in to support you. Like one of my favorite anti-capitalist channels on YouTube is called Second Thought. He has about 1 million subscribers, and near the end of his videos, he's always just like, because I'm talking about anti-capitalist stuff, advertisers will not touch my content. So go to here and here to donate, and my Patreon to get regular videos. And just again, don't expect these people to create circumstances that can improve your material wealth, because if you improve your material wealth, you lose more of that mindset of scarcity. You have more time to study. You can make your channel better and better. And like, the consumeristic capitalistic forces do not want you to be in a position where your channel, your anti-imperialist, your anti-capitalist channel can, where that growth can be fostered.
Yeah.
I think go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say they purposely targeted people that were under 100,000 subscribers
Yes.
because they know that we aren't making that much off of YouTube. So they assume that we are not as wealthy. And so they expect us to not make a big fuss about it with lawyers and take legal action. What they're not expecting is for us to unite with probably bigger channels who have hopefully bigger channels that have experienced problems with YouTube before join us with this action. It's really important because YouTube, people, like the majority of the population doesn't know what Rockfin is or Odyssey. Google has a monopoly on search engines right now, and they own YouTube, so they take advantage of that. They're very powerful. They have their rich lawyers. So the best bet we have is to unite with as many people as we can, as many content creators, and take legal action that way.
Just show different parts. That's again why I keep going back to, like, I just like to go to the source, like their terms and conditions, and just point out little things that other people probably otherwise wouldn't look at. Like I do that all the time with apps. You just click sign up and you scroll through the terms and conditions and you agree. I mean, most people don't read them line for line, but if you can find little things in there, like I was doing, just share them with people, even just to get them to like think about it for a second. That's better than nothing. Like it's not going to be overnight to get people away from this stuff, but I say fortunately, not really in a good way, but like I said, this has already happened on a pretty big scale on the right. So it's not like you're convincing a ton of people. There's already half the population that knows about this type of thing. So it's the hardest people to convince and basically to get on board, if they ever do, would be like the neoliberal type, unfortunately, because they live in one chamber. And I'm generalizing, but that's kind of how it is. They live in one little chamber. And I go back to the New York Times article, like the way that they speak of these alternative platforms is like they're all just a bunch of far right or far left people, so that they convince their readers that they're not worth checking out. So just fighting back against that as well.
I mean, it's not, for me, it's not about, I think with what needs to happen next, it's no longer left versus right, it's right versus wrong.
Yeah.
And what happened to everybody on the left and the right is wrong. And what I would honestly like to see happen, in addition to a class action lawsuit, I would like patrons from everybody's channel to contribute to crowdfunding the legal fees for the class action lawsuit. Because if an individual tries to sue a corporation, an individual is going to lose that battle. There are strength in numbers. And if you collectively pool your resources, left and right, crowdfund the legal fees to go against YouTube, in this instance Google, I think you'll have a much better chance of surviving that legal battle than having a group of having individual here, individual channel here, individual channel here, trying to take down this massive behemoth of a corporation. There's strength in numbers, and an individual wolf doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but a pack of wolves does. And the pack of wolves in this instance needs to be content creators from both sides of the political scale.
It depends on where the wolves congregate. Like if the wolves congregate in a stadium that is meant to shoot wolves, then it's not really worth it to congregate there. I don't think that the revolution will be won through legal battle. I just feel like these are institutions that are already set up for the people that you're fighting against to win. It's like trying to take down Wall Street and hedge funds using the mechanisms of global finance. It's like, well, you're playing on their battlefield, so you're going to lose.
Yeah, I want to give a shout
I mean,
to,
I'm not trying to say be hopeless. I'm just saying like something bigger is needed. Like
it's multiple fronts that it should be fought. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got to start somewhere.
What are they going to argue in court? What they're going to argue in court is you're not entitled to money, and the people that give you money are their advertisers, and their advertisers have priorities that they want to monetize and priorities that they do not want to monetize. And like that's kind of like the way that America works. Like they're just going to say like, we don't want to monetize your stuff, and we're still giving you a platform where you can reach an audience, and then you can tell people to go to other platforms to contribute to you, but we don't necessarily have to facilitate your financial gains and those kinds of behaviors. Now, I think it's shitty when you allow super chats that let you get money from people that want to contribute to you, and you facilitate that process for some channels and not for others. I mean, at that point, the organization, the large corporation could say, well, all you have to do is log on to PayPal, log on to Patreon, and do the thing that you were trying to do anyways. I don't have to facilitate that process for you, which I guess in my mind would strike as legally true. But it is shitty that not only do they take away the monetization of your channel from advertisers, and I'm not saying it's shitty because they should give you money. I'm saying it's shitty because, like I was saying earlier, all of our ideas are rank ordered in a hierarchy of what gets the most likes and fucking followers and what makes the most money. But it's shitty because it's like that process. It's already just trying to get money from somebody that wants to give you money to you, and it's unfortunate that you take away the advertising, but also keep that process for some people and delete it for other people, which I think sucks. It's like the advertisers are controlling whether they give you money or not, but they're also controlling whether or not other people give you money or not, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. I'm going to read these tips real quick, and then I'll make a point. J9 Campbell says, keep it going. Keep speaking to all people. For sure, man. Thank you so much. Brian Fouch says, YouTube was already stealing 30% of your supporters' money. That's right. I don't get all the money that people donate through super chats. YouTube gets a percentage of that. More people are integrating Streamlabs tip/chat on their channels. Combo Couch has Streamlabs super chat up today. Marjorie Rowan says Frank Analysis received. Okay, Frank Analysis received. So, what was I gonna say about all this? So, what were the last things that you said, Pierce? Remind me so that I can remember like what I was gonna say.
Yeah, the last thing that I said is I think it's unfortunate that advertisers, they control whether or not kind of indie media gets money or not, and it's not unfortunate that, because I don't think that they owe you money, because they have their priorities of what to monetize or not, because they're large corporations. They're going to choose who they give money to. But it's unfortunate that that process kind of puts all of our ideas in a capitalist kind of rank hierarchy, where it's like the stuff that gets paid the most attention and most advertised is, I don't know, frivolity mostly. But not only is it that they control whether or not to give you money, but they control whether or not other people will give you money, which sucks. When that second process is already allowed for people that are ostensibly monetized. Like, we're going to monetize these people, and we're advertisers, we're going to give them money, and those are the people that are allowed to have that facilitated process where their fans can give them money. And then it's like channels like yours, we're going to demonetize yours, we're going to demonetize Graham Elwood's, we're going to soon demonetize Jimmy Dore, but then we'll also control whether or not they get super chats, which is like a more organic process where the fans are giving to the creators. And I'm saying that first process isn't owed to you, but that second process just feels like they're putting a roadblock in front of you while they remove that roadblock for people that they're already monetized.
Yeah. And one thing I'm going to mention is that when we received the emails, they were not specific about which videos in particular violated their terms of and conditions. And the thing is, if they do point out specifics, there's a bunch of other YouTube channels that release videos that violated those terms and conditions in a similar way that we did. So then we would be like, okay, what about this? What about this? Like that's why they were so vague about it, so that we don't bring up a case and show them how hypocritical they're being.
Yeah, and they're supposed to tell you the specific one and exactly why. And even, I mean, at least as far as I knew, if you did correct it, not that you should have to, but if you at least took it off or whatever, it should be okay. So that's, again, goes back to your point about how the video that it was about was a video that wasn't even, I think you said you deleted it already. It was going to be a stream with you and Jackson. So like I was saying, I think I was telling you this yesterday, I definitely think that there was a bit of coordination on behalf of some people, and it is a tiny group in the big picture, but you've been causing some waves in a good way, I think. Convo Couch, about some topics, because we know the split on the left, and I think that there are some people that are really just kind of pathetic. I mean, you are watching. I feel sorry for people like that are like taking their time to make like collages of people that like don't agree with them. Like that's just like really sad, but I can see that type kind of like reporting people's videos because, I mean, well, they're getting emails from people like AOC, like, hey, report stuff if you see it. Of course they're going to do it. Like they want that. Those are people that don't really, in my mind, stand for anything. They're looking to fill a void, and like, so approval from a politician that doesn't care about you at all. They're just literally, having you push an agenda. That's how they're going to spend their time. So I do think it was some of that because like you said, Frank, like there's a lot of people online with the same content that all of you have, not in the same format, but definitely kind of the same discussion and talking points. So I was just very curious how it all went down.
Yeah, and then that email that AOC released that was telling people to mass report people who are releasing that are saying things on social media or having hashtags that are too critical of AOC because it's dangerous, and she's tying it back to the Capitol and how she had trauma. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think that this was a concerted effort in having AOC tell people to mass report people, and they mainly went after
Lord,
like
did she do that?
And Combo Couch and Nico, Jamarl, people who were being critical of her.
Yeah, because you can't criticize her. It's insane.
I've been off Twitter for like 2 weeks, and yeah, man, these people are the enemy. Like, I mean, sure, every once in a while they're like, people should have, the right to healthcare, as opposed to just saying Medicare for all. But like these people are looking out for their own careers. I wanted to say one quick thing to you, Franco. Like, the money part, like, compartmentalize. Like, that is not your value. You produce good work in the future. Focus on continuing to produce good work. Like the capitalist kind of structure is always going to devalue your contributions, especially as you get more and more, you start making more waves and you're more effective with the content that you're producing. I just focus on making good content, but I feel like I'm running out of things to say on YouTube and monetization. Like these people are your enemy.
Yeah.
People like the politicians are your enemies. The large corporations are your enemies. Governments that want to watch your movements and put you on lists. Yeah. Like these people don't think according to the regular narrative. These people are your enemy. And I mean, like, I just don't really know what to say after that. Like maybe we won't be the ones that see change happen in our lifetime, but yeah, like everything has to focus on what Joe talked about, where it's like we try to build class consciousness among people that see themselves on the left and the right. And if we're not doing that, we're just kind of talking anyways. But yeah, man, just focus on doing good work. Mm-hmm. Don't assume that these capitalist forces are going to monetize you. In fact, do everything that you're doing, assuming that you're going to be demonetized tomorrow. And yeah, it's unfortunate that some people want to do this for a living, but I mean, I don't know, it's kind of a privileged position to be in a position where you're just producing content without actually organizing or doing anything of concrete, practical action type value. Like not everyone can be a propagandist, although that is useful. Yeah, sorry to ramble there. But yeah, I'm wondering if we're going to talk about anything else.
Yeah, and that's a lesson that a lot of people should take for themselves, even if you're not a content creator. Whatever you do, if you love doing it, the money will come eventually. So listen to your heart when it comes to choosing a career.